Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this afternoon's meeting, to the public, to the councillors, to the staff. I'd just like you to note that this meeting is, as most of our council meetings are, being live streamed. And I'd like to, first of all, confirm the minutes of the 6th. Oh, does anyone have any conflict of interest just before that? Not expecting any, but hate to miss out that opportunity. Confirmation of the minutes of the 6th of August 2015. I'll move. Councillor Ahapini Mercer will second. Please vote. I declare that carried. Keep watching the red and green lights is good advice to you, councillors. There is no public participation, no announcements. I'd like to move to general business item 3.1, which I'm moving. We have had some changes at Regional Council. We've got a number of transport issues, such as bus rapid transit, urban cycleways, and the state highway network, amongst others. It seems important that we're as clear as possible between Greater Wellington and Wellington City Council as to progress and mutual understanding. I have suggested that at some point the transport functions should be integrated into one, but that's obviously, even if everyone agrees, that would be a while off. This paper is a result of a conversation that I've had with Chris Laidlaw, the chair of Greater Wellington Regional Council, and they're looking to appoint a non-voting member to the Sustainable Transport Committee. The only suggestion I would have is, and I'm sorry I haven't raised it with staff, but I'm sure we can do it at some other meeting, is that we probably need alternates, so that if our chair of TUD is not available, or their chair of their Sustainable Transport Committee is not available, somebody else goes. But maybe we can just, given it's a non-voting member, we probably don't have to go through any great rigmarole. So I'm moving. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Freed. Do you wish to speak? Does anyone wish to speak? Then we will move to voting. I'd now like to move to the report of the Governance, Finance and Planning Committee, which, if you can cast your minds back about half an hour. I'm sure we can be clear and effective. In a moment, I'm going to ask Councillor Lester, as chair of that committee, to introduce it. I'm going to second it and make some comments, and then I'm going to ask Councillor Peck, as chair of ARMS. There may be some items that he wants to focus on and respond to. But before any of us elected members speak, I'm going to ask Mr. Bede Kearney from Audit New Zealand to come up and address the meeting. Then we do our debate, our vote, and sign the letter of representation with myself and Andy Matthews. I should have saw him out there. So in that case, given that our Audit New Zealand representative obviously thought we might take a little longer on the transport paper, or was so advised, we might move into debate, and I'll do my best in right of... Councillor Peck, I'll put you on the speaking list for when Mr. Bede has spoken, if that's all right. So over to you, Councillor Lester, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This was discussed at length this morning, so I don't want to go into and extend the breadth of the debate, but I want to acknowledge the work undertaken by the members of the Arms Committee and the Chair, Councillor Peck, for their page-by-page assessment of the annual report and their contributions to it. It's good to see it's a balanced document reporting on what Council has done positively, but also areas where we can improve and perhaps take some learnings from. I want to acknowledge the staff as well. The breadth of the organisation is huge. It covers all aspects of the city, literally, and they do a phenomenal job. We can always make improvements. Of that there is no doubt, but we've done a tremendously good job. Considering the extensive budget and to the $400 million plus, I think we've done well in terms of the underlying net surplus at 1.8 million. Buffeted somewhat by the airport dividend, but the fact that we've got the surplus there and that we've also not rated ratepayers beyond what was appropriate in advance, I think is a testament to a job well done by a finance team. So Councillor Peck, I'll leave the comments for you as Chair largely, but a job well done, thank you.
Thank you. Before I speak as seconder, Bede, Mr Kearney, would you like to come up and speak? So we were very efficient this afternoon. Must be a good lunch.
Thanks, Your Worship. Look, I'm here today. I'm now in a position to sign my audit report. I understand the letter of representation's been signed, and that was, I guess, the final step in our process. I was here through the committee this morning, and we also with the Audit and Risk Committee last week when that went through, so I'm aware of the consideration that the councillors have put into it. Just to quickly reflect, probably the big issues that we dealt with this year were related to the changes in accounting standards that we had to, that was me, deal with, but and there's some challenges in there, but we've got there, and I'm pleased to say that I'm now in a position to sign an unqualified audit report.
Thank you, Mr Kearney. Better if we just wait until we've actually voted for it.
Yep.
We'll debate and raise a few points. I'm very pleased to second this annual report. I think it is a transparent and clear expression of the achievements we've made this year. We have made a huge number of achievements, and that's been between our staff, our contractors, elected members, and many, many other organisations. And I'd like to do a big shout out, if you like, to all of the community and voluntary associations that have helped us achieve in the area of social services and in the area of the environment in particular. I've got a couple of points that I wanted to make from the details here. We've welcomed the Wellington Regional Economic Development Agency. We've finished Victoria Street. We activated Bond Street. Our social housing, Barclay Dallard, Etona and Marshall Court projects have been completed, and the Leone Gill shared pathway has been opened. The Hataitai bus tunnel strengthened, and generally we are rated well. There are some items that we have to do better on. For example, the quality of our urban stream water was one that was highlighted, and there are areas, our number of children walking to school, while it's improving, it's not where we want it to be yet, but 100% of resource consents within statutory timeframes, and 86% of residents agree that the central city is lively and attractive. 86%, even up from the 80% before. So all of the things we're doing, like the Lux festivals, the urban activation, the safety, the lighting, they are making a perceivable difference, which is after all what we're here for. And if you think about our Smart Capital 2040 and how year by year we're trying to implement that, one of the big aims was for a dynamic central city. So that's a real highlight for me. Clary Gibbons Building, Thistle Hall, and does anyone miss the portico? You look back and you think it used to sit there like Darth Vader. It took longer than it should have done to take off. And one comment that came through strongly from the externals was that most of our case studies are very positive. Perhaps we sometimes need to point out some case studies where things didn't go quite so smoothly, and I think that and there are good reasons for them, I'm sure, and I prefer to have lessons rather than learnings, but I'm sure we can gather one or the other from some of those projects. So I'm very pleased to be seconding this very solid list of achievements. I'd now like to call on Councillor Peck.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and I won't take too long. We've rehearsed quite a bunch of this morning, but it is important to highlight a couple of matters along the way. First of all, my thanks to the officers for the work they've done. I think, as we all know, it's been a difficult and busy period for officers, and they've managed to get an annual report written, the financial statements done to a standard where we achieved a AA rating again. And as I say to people, we get a AA rating because we're actually better than that, but we can't record better than that because the government's only AA, so that's all we can get, which is a little sad. But it's good to note that the council is strong in its fiscal prudence, and that's reflected in the ratings we get from the agencies. So to Andy Matthews, Richard Marshall and Gunter Wild, in particular, and the teams that work with you, thank you very much for a job well done. Also thank you to the Audit and Risk Committee. I want to acknowledge Kevin Simpkin for his knowledge of accounting matters, which was really important this year, and I'm glad Audit have mentioned the issues of standards. Really, really important on this occasion in getting the accounts sorted out, because a number of the accounting standards have changed and they've been difficult. And so the assistance of Kevin Simpkin was greatly appreciated. Also Peter Harris for his assistance around this stuff, the wording, and also the risk stuff. And also I want to acknowledge the role played by councillors, so yourself, Madam Mayor, and Councillor Wolfe and Councillor Marsh, in helping work through all the measures that are in the annual report, and also to the council this morning for a very detailed consideration of the documents and what's in it. As I say, I'm not going to go through it in too much detail, except to say that annual reports and annual accounts in particular can be really, really confusing. And if members of the public want to get a really good handle on what's happening with the council accounts, I would recommend that when they get their copy of the annual report and see all the numbers, that they turn to pages 291 to 311 or whatever they might end up being, but to read the financial impact statements, because they're the ones that tell you the dollars and cents essentially. It shows you what money came in, what money went out, what the overs and unders were, and the results. And so when you're having a look at what the council provides you for your dollars, then they're the best statements to read. I do want to comment on the surplus for just a moment. The councils are damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. If we make a small deficit, then we're seen to be imprudent with the way we manage our resources. If we make a surplus, well, then we're seen as being far too taxing of the poor old long-suffering ratepayer. And so you can't win either way. And there are some numbers in the financial figures which we have no control over. Things like the money we receive for housing, like the money we receive for roading, that all gets reported in our financial result. But it's the underlying surplus that's important. And that underlying surplus on this occasion comes out at 1.8 million. Now, as Councillor Lester has already indicated, that is largely the result of the dividend we receive from the airport. The airport dividend is $2 million, and so essentially we've got about 0.2 behind what our current expenses would be, if you like. So we've managed prudently within the resources we've had. We haven't overtaxed our ratepayers, but more importantly, we've guaranteed intergenerational equity by not actually putting away a war chest. We've actually made sure that we've paid for what we consumed. Others will do so in the future, and we've also put money away to maintain the assets which the city has. I think people probably don't realise, but the council has something like $6 billion worth of assets that need to be regularly maintained if they're going to continue to work every time you turn on the tap or pull the chain. So the council does remarkably well within the resources it's got, and if we didn't have a council of this ilk, people would be militating for one. I've got absolutely no doubt about that. So once again, my thanks to those that have put an enormous effort to get these numbers right. Also to Audit New Zealand for the work they've done, the tolerance and understanding they've had in working with our officials as well. I'm sure that the officials appreciated that. I know that given the nature of those discussions, the debates would have been fairly frank and honest, but we got there in the end, and we have a good document to put out to the people once we've considered and finally signed off on it.
Thank you. Do any other councillors wish to speak? Any right of reply required? Councillor Lester? So we will now vote on the annual report. I declare it carried, and I will now come to sign the letter of representation with Mr. Kearney. I've done.
You've signed.
I think I have.
Yep.
Here we are.
Cool. Great. Thanks, Andy. I need to kneel. I can't bend my back so good.
Oh, let's have my seat.
No.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't we need
We
to
got
hold
there
it,
again.
but it's nice to shake.
It is.
Thank you.
Great.
And I have my pen back
Yes,
though.
I
Don't
nearly
trust
stole
an
it last
auditor
time.
with a
You're
pen.
onto me now, aren't you?
I am. This is like one of those famous three-way handshakes. Thank you. Great. So well done, everybody. And I declare the meeting complete. Thank you, councillors.
Ja,